Hi and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. It is a windy, cold day this afternoon and threatening to rain and snow over the next couple of days, which is perfect weather for an off-grid meal of chili and biscuits. So we are going to be doing some Dutch oven cooking today using everything that we already have available as if we were in a grid down situation. So one of the first things that I will need to do is to clean off my countertop right here with Stearamine. I always do this anyway, but a lot of times I don't show it on the videos. I'm going to be putting food directly on this countertop. And this is Stearamine. I've shown it a lot. I've talked about it a lot. It is my go-to sanitizer. It's used in the food industry. And it kills everything, and the thing of it is, once it's dry, it keeps killing. So we are going to get started on the biscuits when we come right back. Making biscuits can be, how shall I say this? If you have a wonderful family recipe that has been handed down, how lucky you are. I have experimented with biscuit recipes my whole entire life, trying to get the perfect biscuit recipe. And so I use 2 or 3 depending on the mood that I'm in. Today I'm going to use one that I think does really, really well in a Dutch oven, and it uses lard. Lard and buttermilk are both the best ingredients for making biscuits, but in a grid down situation we may not have either. So I'm going to give the substitutions that we can use for those. And I also am going to just make a half a recipe. A half of a recipe fits perfectly in my 10-inch Dutch oven, which is right here, and I'll show you how we get this ready in just a minute. The first thing that I'm going to do is to put 2 cups of flour right out here on the countertop. Now that's going to be surprising to some of you unless you have seen my pie crust recipe. This is exactly how I make pie crust. And from my perspective, it is the best method for integrating fat into flour. Then the next thing is, I now need to add to that a tablespoon of baking powder and a teaspoon of salt. Usually I just pour that salt into my hand, but I will be good and show you that it's a teaspoon. Okay, there we go. These are 2 bench scrapers, and I'm going to use those to mix the dry ingredients together. I want them well mixed before we add our fat. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to add here is 6 tablespoons of lard that has been chilled. I just barely took this out of the refrigerator. It is very cold. And I'm just going to plop it right on top of the flour. And then this is how I integrate fat into a flour mixture for biscuits and for pie crust. Now we want the lard to be, or the fat, and you can use shortening, you can also use butter, and what I probably will be using in a long-term off-grid situation, I will probably be using ghee. I'm not sure that I will have lard available. All right, so this looks just about right. So I'm going to make a little well in the middle. Jim and I no longer drink a lot of milk, so we don't have any milk. I could use water, I could use regular milk, or I could use buttermilk. Buttermilk would be my choice. So I'm going to make some buttermilk. Well, or a substitute of buttermilk. It calls for 3/4 of a cup, so I'm going to put 3/4 of a cup of warm water in this measurer. To that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of my powdered milk, which is just about right for 3/4 of a cup. And this is non-fat powdered milk or dry milk, however you want to say it. Using a fork, I'm going to stir this up until it's all mixed in, putting this powder into a little bit of warm water makes it mix up much easier. This is instant, so it mixes nice and easy. And then, to substitute for the buttermilk, which is more acidic than regular milk, I'm just going to put in about a tablespoon, a scant tablespoon of vinegar. That brings the acid level up, more like buttermilk. It gives the milk a little bit of a sour taste, just like buttermilk. I'm going to stir that around, and it is clabbering it just a little bit, which is just like buttermilk. It's perfect. And the next thing is, I'm going to start pouring it right here into this well. You see how it's all kind of clabbered there? And make wonderful biscuits. And so then I'm just going to mix the flour in. Sometimes little streams escape out one side or another, and I just bring them back with the bench scraper. And the rest is going in. We can knead it once or twice, but we don't want to knead it very much. I like to get the feel of it. Oh, it's nice and soft. Shouldn't be sticking to my hands, so I am going to get a little bit of flour here. And then I am just going to pat it out. I'm not going to use a rolling pin. You can also, at this point in time, you can drop the biscuits into your pot, or you can just pinch off pieces about this big and then form them into a biscuit shape and do it that way. Or you can use a biscuit cutter, which is what I'm going to use today. So you have options. So this is an easy recipe that even beginning biscuit bakers can use. When you cut biscuits, you want a cutter that has a very sharp edge, because we want to preserve the layers. And also you want to go straight down and straight up. You don't want to twist it at all, because then that also ruins the layers of the biscuits. Now we are ready to get our pan ready with Crisco or shortening. And not just a tiny dab. This is going to help make the bottoms beautifully golden brown and also very crispy, crunchy. And then notice that I'm also going clear up the side, even though it may not, the dough is not going to go up this high. I always think about doing a combination of cooking and seasoning my pots at the same time. And so putting a thin layer of Crisco up here will help season any part that is left open to the heat. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the underside of the lid. I know for sure that the biscuits are not going to reach this lid. But if I put a very thin coat of Crisco during the baking time, which is about 25 to 30 minutes, then the underside of the lid is going to get more seasoning baked right into it. Get the Crisco baked right into it, which is what I want. Okay, so here we are. down, up. Oh, that one's stuck a little bit. So I'm just going to put it right in the pan. And down, up. You're so tempted to twist that to make sure it's a good cut. But when you see sides like that, that's kind of what we want, because that encourages the layers on these biscuits. My family used to feed these to the chickens. I like to just cook it. So I make it, see what kind of a shape I have there. And we'll just put a little half moon right there. Okay, these now are ready. Jim is going to go out and start the charcoal, and then while the charcoal is getting ready, I'm going to show you how we're going to put the chili together. Meanwhile, I'm just going to put the lid on this and set it over here, and we will be all ready to put that right over the coals as soon as the coals are ready. We're now ready to put the chili together, but first I wanted to show you the difference in the pans that I'm using. This Dutch oven has legs, as you can see right here. The reason is that it is elevated so that we can fit the charcoal briquettes or the coals underneath. This pan does not have those, and yet we are going to put it out on the same cook table over coals as well. How do we do that? Well, I saw this little rack, especially designed for removing lids off of hot Dutch ovens and putting them here instead of down on the dirt. It can also be used to elevate a pan such as this. Now, if you don't have a pan with legs, if you have a Dutch oven without legs, you can still use it over coals by finding rocks, that the same elevation that is needed to slip the coals underneath. So we can improvise a whole lot of things. Now I'm going to start this pan the very same way that I did my Dutch oven, and that is anytime I cook with cast iron, I start with a good coat of either oil, or in this case, it is shortening on the bottom. Now, this is going to have chili in it, so it's a little different than biscuits, but nevertheless, I am still greasing up the sides and a good layer on that bottom. I'm also, this lid, it doubles as the lid. It also doubles as a separate frying pan. I'm going to also coat this with a very fine coat. I'm not sure that any of the chili will be splashing up into the lid, but this also gives me the opportunity to bake in some of this fat and help with the nonstick surface going forward. If I were going to be starting chili from scratch, we would not be putting it over the coals at the same time that we put the biscuits over the coals. We would have started about an hour earlier, but I'm not starting from scratch because on my shelf I have my triple beans and I have a chili mix. So we're going to start with those two ingredients that are already cooked. And so essentially all we are going to be doing, notice I did my safety check, the air whooshed in and then I smelled it and it smells just fine. So we are going to be starting with ingredients that are already cooked. We are just going to simply be bringing these up to a simmer and heating them. The chili mix was canned just a few months ago. It's not even a year old yet. Ooh, it really smells good. This has hamburger in it. It has onions in it, and it has the seasonings. So I'm just going to mix these two together. Now I'm going to add a few additional onions. I have this many left in a jar, so I'm just going to use them up. I often get asked, how much dehydrated food do you put in your recipes? And my answer is, I don't know. I just always pretty much do it off the cuff. These are freeze-dried sweet peppers, and I'm just going to put a few of them in for a little bit of taste and color. And notice that I'm putting them in dried. both the little onion pieces and the pepper pieces, and they will rehydrate as this begins to simmer. So I'm just going to stir them in, and we're going to put the lid on, and I will meet you out at the cook table. The coals are more than ready. I have my protection on. Take a look here at what a good job Jim has done. Now, he is usually the one that sets the charcoal, so he is going to coach me because I don't use the camera yet. I should probably learn. So essentially what I'm going to do is pull out about 10 of these and put them right under here. Open this up just a little bit more. Right here. Get that one little straggler underneath. Then I'm going to put about 7 and then the remaining ones are going to go on the top. And that's it. You made this look so easy, Jim, so you were easy to follow your example on how to do this. It's about the first time I've ever arranged them, so he did a good job teaching me how to do it. So we're going to let these cook for about 25 to 30 minutes. If we do come back and check, we'll bring you back so that you can see what is in progress as we go. Jim and I usually sit in these 2 chairs, they're rocking chairs, and just kind of enjoy the outdoors. We might do that for a few minutes, but it's getting pretty cold out here and gearing up for rain. So in any case, we will see you shortly. Mealtime. Let's check our biscuits. Oh yes, they're perfect. I'm going to put the lid over here on our other stove. Okay. This one I removed the little rack and put it directly down on the coals to give it a jump start. Let's see how it did. All right, very nice. Okay, I'm going to take these in the house and we'll meet you in the kitchen. Here we are, ready for our early dinner. Oh my goodness, this looks great. Nothing like chili. It was raining out there a minute ago when we were out there, so we are ready for this chili. And the biscuits. Oh, look at those. They are just stunning. This is such a great recipe. How many biscuits, honey?
2 will be fine.
Okay. 2 for Jim. And then I'm going to put a little bit of ghee on our plates. And we have some honey from our bees, and so we'll have some honey on our biscuits. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to move this food out of these pans right away. Just as soon as we finish our meal, we're going to let them cool for a little while. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how I would clean them in an off-grid situation. So we will be back after dinner. Well, this is the leftover dinner. So we really enjoyed our meal. Notice that there's only 2 biscuits left. We started with 8 plus that extra little piece. All I'll tell you is that I had 2. You'll have to do the math to figure out how many Jim ate. Sorry, honey, I told on you. So anyway, this is enough for another meal for Jim, probably for lunch one day next week. And we'll put these in plastic and put this in the refrigerator. Now we are left with the job of washing these pans. If we are in a grid down situation, we need to think about how we're going to do things. So I have 2 lids and 2 pots. Now, let's arrange these in order of cleanest to dirtiest. So this one is probably the cleanest. Then this one is cleanest, then this one, then this one, and then this one. So that's the order that we're going to wash them in, and I'm going to then use the water. Now, I won't be using my faucet, but if we're in a grid down situation, I'm still going to use my kitchen. I'm going to use every bit of it that I can possibly use. And hopefully we will have running water, but we might not. So I have 3 quarts of water here that I drew from our water storage, pretend, because I really just took it out of the faucet. And it is warm, so I've heated it up some way. So I'm going to pour a little bit on the inside of this pan. And remember that on the inside here, I put a light coat of shortening. So I'm just going to just wipe this. And that looks pretty good. Then I'm going to pour it right here. Salvage all the water that I can. And this top looks really good, the inside. Putting that shortening coating on it really helped protect it. Flipping it over, and it has a little bit of ash on the outside. So, you know what, I'm going to get a paper towel to get that ash. So I'm just going to dampen it a little bit with the water that I already have, and just spread it around here, and this is pretty much going to be just fine for this lid. So it's really quite clean. Very little water needed for this one. Now if I want to re-season it, which I don't believe that I'm going to because of the shortening that I put on the inside here. So this one is okay, ready to go. Now this one, mostly just ash on the top from putting the briquettes on. And this is just a little cloth. It's just cloth. It's not anything else. No inserts or anything else. And saving that water. And then just wiping the inside as well. And this lid was also light coat of shortening on the inside. And so it is pretty darn good, just like that. So I'm just going to take my dish towel and dry it. And also this will not need re-seasoning. Okay. Now let's take a little bit more water and put in this one. This one should really not need too much because it was just biscuits that we cooked in here, and we gave a nice coat of Crisco on the bottom. My water is no longer warm. Extra water I'm going to put over in this pan. I'm going to give this one a wipe all around the edge. Alright, so this one is nice and clean. Now, technically I don't think I need to re-season this one at this time. I think it's just fine. I did season it last time I used it. Last time I baked biscuits in it earlier this week, and I think that it will be just fine. So I don't think that one needs anything. Now, this is going to be the one. So, how do we go about getting a mess out like this? And I also put Crisco all over this one as well. So first I'm just going to loosen what I can with the leftover water. I'm just going to pour this down my sink. I'm not going to worry about that. And then I'm going to put a little bit more water in here. And I have this little scrubby that I'm going to use. All plastic. This does a great job. And I'm done with this water, so down the sink it goes. I'm going to take my scrubby and wipe off the bottom where those ashes were. Wipe this one out. Need to get off. So when I re-season this, remember I have done cooking with coals outside, and those coals are still warm. This is bacon grease that I've been saving, and so I'm just going to give this a quick coat of bacon grease. And I'm going to take this outside, put that little rack over the remaining coals, and I'm just going to let this sit there until the coals get cold. I will be wiping this out 2 or 3 times with a paper towel, but hopefully there's enough heat left that it will really burn this bacon grease right into the pot itself and help with another layer of seasoning. And basically that's it. So we have cooked a meal with everything that we've had on hand. We have done it outside using cast iron on our little cook table out there. And we have cleaned the pots with about 2 cups of water. Not bad if we have to be off-grid. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you with our next video adventure.